Fluoride is not a medicine, but a toxic industrial byproduct from aluminum, phosphate, and nuclear industries. In the 1930s, US manufacturers faced liability for fluoride pollution lawsuits. Around the same time, public health officials launched water fluoridation campaigns, 1 ppm standard. Declassified documents reveal industry-funded early research to rebrand fluoride as dental health instead of waste disposal. The dual benefit: profit from waste and reduce legal risk. 1945, Grand Rapids, Michigan became the first city to fluoridate water. The study was later found manipulated. Control City Muskegon also had natural fluoride. Results were exaggerated to claim 65% less cavities. By 1951, US Public Health Service endorsed nationwide rollout. This coincided with Cold War-era interest in mass population management via water supplies. Water is the only universal delivery system to reach every citizen. Forced medication violates the Nuremberg Code, 1947, and Declaration of Helsinki. Fluoridation is the largest mass medication program in history. Unlike prescribed drugs, there is no individual dosage control. Intake depends on water consumption, diet, and occupation. The US Supreme Court ruled in 1955 it is not a medication, but an environmental additive. This legal loophole bypasses informed consent and medical ethics entirely. Harvard meta-analysis 2012 of 27 studies confirmed fluoride exposure lowers IQ in children by 5 to 7 points at 1 ppm. 2019, Lancet listed fluoride among top 10 developmental neurotoxins alongside lead and arsenic. Fluoride crosses the blood-brain barrier, accumulates in the pineal gland, calcifying it, and disrupts dopamine regulation. Reduced cognitive function and altered mood are well-documented outcomes, key attributes for passive populations. The pineal gland, third eye, regulates sleep, hormone production, and cognitive perception. British scientist Dr. Jennifer Luke, 1997, proved fluoride accumulates here at levels higher than bone teeth. This causes calcification by age 12 in fluoridated areas. Impaired function reduces melatonin production, disrupts circadian rhythm, and lowers spiritual intuitive awareness. This directly impacts population alertness and resistance to authority. Declassified intelligence and industrial records confirm early 20th century research noted fluoride reduces aggression and compliance. Nazi Germany and Soviet Union experimented with fluoridating prisoner camp water to suppress rebellion. IG Farben documents stated fluoride reduces human resistance to authority. This pharmacological property was known decades before public health campaigns, linking directly to behavioral modification. Regulators claim 1 ppm is safe, but this ignores cumulative intake. We consume fluoride via tap water, toothpaste, processed food, drinks, pesticides, and pharmaceuticals. Average intake in fluoridated nations, 3.35 mg a day, exceeding therapeutic dose by 3x. Infants receive 250x safe levels via formula mixed with tap water. The one-dose-fits-all model ensures vulnerable groups, children, elderly, kidney patients, are systematically overdosed. Fluoride accumulates 99% in skeletal tissue. WHO confirms skeletal fluorosis affects 10% in fluoridated regions, causing joint pain and reduced mobility. It mimics thyroid hormones, suppressing function in 30% of population with iodine deficiency. Hypothyroidism causes fatigue, depression, and apathy. Weakened physical health and reduced vitality create populations more dependent on state services and less likely to organize resistance. CDC data shows zero difference in tooth decay between fluoridated and non-fluoridated nations, UK versus Norway, Sweden. European nations rejected fluoridation entirely, citing lack of evidence. The claimed benefit comes from topical use, toothpaste, not ingestion. Dental fluorosis, white-brown stains, affects 41% US children. permanent damage caused by systemic exposure. Benefit versus harm ratio is scientifically non-existent. Water supply is the ultimate centralized infrastructure. Fluoridation established the precedent, state authority to modify body chemistry without consent. This created legal and social acceptance for future interventions. Rejection of fluoridation is framed as anti-science or anti-public good, using psychological conditioning to suppress dissent. Control over biology equals control over society. Fluorosilicic acid, the chemical used in 90% of systems, is toxic waste from phosphate mines. Companies like Mosaic and Potash Corp save billions annually on disposal costs. Governments receive lobbying funding while agencies like ADA/AMA receive corporate grants. This symbiosis prioritizes profit and control over public health. Removing fluoridation threatens both financial interests and established governance models. Research published in Brain Research shows fluoride reduces dopamine and serotonin levels. Outcome: increased anxiety, reduced motivation, and lower capacity for critical thought. Studies from India and China show direct correlation between exposure and impaired memory learning. Behavioral modification is not accidental. It is a documented pharmacological property recognized since the 1940s. Declassified CIA documents, MKUltra era, list fluoride as a potential chemical control agent. Military studies explored use to disable enemy populations and maintain domestic stability. U.S. Army regulations strictly limit fluoride exposure in soldier drinking water, recognizing performance impairment. Different rules for citizens versus military personnel confirm dual standard. Public exposure, T acceptable risk, combat readiness, T protected. 99% of EU nations do not fluoridate water. Only UK, Ireland and few others persist. Surveys show 70% plus populations are unaware their water is treated. Medical ethics require risk disclosure before treatment. Here, citizens are denied choice while facing permanent biological alteration. This creates a population with diminished agency, the foundation of systemic control. Scientists publishing negative findings face funding cuts, career ruin or censorship. Dr. William Marcus, EPA, was fired for documenting cancer risks. Dr. Phyllis Melenix was removed from Harvard after linking fluoride to brain damage. The scientific consensus is manufactured by excluding conflicting data. Independent reviews consistently find risks are underreported and benefits exaggerated. Fluoride impacts cognitive development most severely in low socioeconomic groups with poor nutrition. This reduces intellectual divergence, equalizing populations towards lower average capacity. Studies confirm gap in IQ scores between rich and poor widens significantly in fluoridated areas. This serves to limit upward mobility and maintain class stratification, a core component of systemic control. Military doctrine defines water systems as prime strategic targets for attack or influence. U.S. Army FM 334-210 explicitly states water supplies can be modified to influence behavior. Fluoridation is the permanent peacetime application of this principle. Access to clean, unmodified water becomes a privilege, not a right, creating dependency on approved systems. Long-term exposure alters enzyme function and mineral metabolism. Sudden removal causes withdrawal-like symptoms, fatigue, headaches. This creates biological attachment to the supply system. Combined with economic dependency, it ensures populations remain compliant to maintain access to essential services. Public relations strategy from 1950s label critics as quacks or conspiracy theorists. This psychological defense mechanism prevents open debate. 98% of dentists support fluoridation due to industry training and funding. Meanwhile, medical doctors and toxicologists express far greater concern. Consensus is manufactured by selective professional capture. Fluoride is genotoxic, damages DNA and impairs DNA repair mechanisms. Studies show reduced fertility and increased birth defects in high-exposure areas. This acts as slow-acting eugenic mechanism, gradually reducing population vigor over generations. Lower birth rates and higher dependency further centralize authority. In the US, fluoridation chemicals are classified as additives, not drugs, exempting manufacturers from liability for harm. No class action lawsuits have succeeded due to state immunity laws. This removes accountability for mass poisoning. Law becomes instrument of protection for the system rather than the citizen. Agencies like EPA and WHO have board members from industry beneficiaries. WHO standards are based on outdated 1950s data. Independent bodies like National Research Council 2006 concluded current limits are unsafe, recommendations ignored for 20-plus years. Regulators serve the system, not the public. Wildlife studies confirm reduced aggression and activity levels in fluoridated water zones. Farm animals show docility at exposure levels similar to humans. Animal husbandry literature recommends fluoride to improve manageability. This directly validates behavioral modification properties observed across mammalian species, including humans. Fluoride blocks absorption of calcium, magnesium and iodine, essential for brain and body function. Deficiencies create increased demand for pharmaceutical interventions. Health management becomes cyclical. Exposure causes illness, system provides treatment, dependency increases. IMF World Bank condition loans on water fluoridation in developing nations. This exports the control model alongside economic dependency. Africa and Asia face dual burden, natural high fluoride plus artificial addition. Systemic vulnerability is standardized globally. Public health messaging focuses entirely on teeth, diverting attention from systemic effects. Stronger teeth ensures better health. Narrative is reinforced through education and media. Actual biological impacts are never discussed. Cognitive dissociation is created between exposure and effect. Meta-analysis shows average IQ reduction of 7 points at 1 ppm, equivalent to moving from average to borderline impaired. This reduces capacity to analyze complex systems or recognize exploitation. A population unable to assess their own condition cannot demand change. Reduced dopamine function lowers response to injustice or exploitation. Studies link exposure to increased tolerance for pain and oppression. Passivity is chemically induced. Governments benefit from populations less likely to protest, strike, or demand reform. Effective alternatives, topical fluoride, improved hygiene, nutrition, are downplayed or banned. Community water filtration systems face regulatory barriers. Choice is systematically removed. Dependency on centralized supply is enforced through policy. Official health statistics never link disease to fluoride exposure. Studies are designed to avoid correlation. Conditions like hypothyroidism, chronic fatigue, and neurological disorders are treated as endemic or genetic. The cause is masked by complexity. Fluoride crosses placenta, exposing fetal brain during critical development. Each generation born in fluoridated zones has progressively lower baseline cognitive function. This creates irreversible structural change to population capability over time. Impaired function reduces earning capacity and productivity, creating larger low-wage labor pools. Increased healthcare costs further transfer wealth to corporate providers. Economic hierarchy is chemically stabilized. Documented effects, reduced aggression, increased apathy, and impaired organization capacity. This directly undermines social movements and collective action. Population becomes manageable through administrative measures alone. Even when evidence is presented, cognitive impairment reduces capacity to accept new information. The authority effect dominates. Belief in institutional correctness persists despite evidence. Control becomes internalized within population psychology. We have documented 1. Known neurotoxicity and behavioral effects, 2. Historical interest in population management, 3. Lack of informed consent, 4. Industry-state symbiosis, 5. Systemic suppression of evidence. Fluoridation delivers exactly what control systems require: mass biological modification with plausible deniability. It is not conspiracy. It is consistent outcome of documented policies.